expanding as a general rule, and this is not the case in every circumstance, but as a general rule, expanding highway infrastructure tends to result in something that's known as induced demand, which is basically you've now created more capacity for the roadway, and so cars are going to, over time, fill that capacity. And so one of the best examples of this was the Katy Freeway in Texas, where it actually got to be the widest highway in the entire US, maybe even in the entire world at one point. I think it was 26 lanes across or 28 lanes, and within just a few years of it coming online, congestion increased within like 5 years, something like 30% in the morning and 50% at night. And so a lot of people will tell you that there's no easy way to build your way out of congestion. And one analogy we like to use around my office is, to try to build your way out of congestion by widening highways is a lot like trying to lose weight by getting a bigger belt. It just doesn't, you're not addressing the root cause of the issue, right? And so, there are things we can do that can help take cars off the road. And that's really the bottom line. We want to take cars off the road. So whether you take public transit or you use ride sharing or you bike or you don't, somebody will. And those are cars that aren't going to be on the road, and that means less congestion for everybody. And one of the things we saw in my town in Boston was when the T broke down about 2 years ago over one of the worst winters we'd ever seen, the most immediate effect was nobody could get to work. And the reason was because nobody could take the T, and now all of a sudden they had to drive. And what happens to a system when some huge number of the passenger trips taken all of a sudden isn't available? Now that's not to say that's a perfect solution. There are other costs that say that maybe transit isn't the silver bullet there, but I begin with the premise of we need to take cars off the road, and if we expand our freeways, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, there's good reason to believe that that's going to put more cars on the road over time.
I take the view that one has to be strategic about these choices. It's not so much about expanding roadways, but utilizing the roadways, but to think of it as a network ultimately, and identify those places in the network where the bottlenecks exist, the bottlenecks for freight delivery, the conflicts, etc., and then be strategic about those investments. And I think there's probably need for much more qualitative improvements to the infrastructure than necessarily laying more asphalt and adding lanes there. So and tying that in with intelligent management of the system.
Yeah, it's about efficiency, not just building roads because we have congestion. That's probably the worst reason to build a road is because it's congested.
We're going to slide